Well, hello there, gunfighters. Saddle up for another episode of Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, the right way with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. Today we're going to wax nostalgic on some cool guns that were around a decade ago, but aren't around now, at least not new. A lot of this came out of a magazine I just happened to have given to me by a patron, Gun Buyer's Guide of 2014. Give credit where it's due. Some of these may not be in there, but a lot of these came, the vast majority, from that. A lot of ideas I got flipping through that magazine thinking, oh wow, yeah, those aren't around anymore. And that's 2014, this is 2024. That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to put in a quick rapid fire bio and then we'll get into the main topic. Blessed to have served in military, law enforcement, combat veteran, private contractor, competition shooter, lifelong hunter, guide. Blessed by God that He got me through all those things so I could share this firsthand training, knowledge, experience with you to serve you today. Let's dive into the podcast. What happened to Bushmaster? Actually, I kind of know what happened to Bushmaster. Those of you that are kind of in the gun culture 2.0, you may not remember Bushmaster, but back in yesteryear, back in days of yore, way back, there weren't a ton of ARs on the market. There was a few companies and a few like small experimental companies. But as far as big companies go, back in the day there was Colt. They were the big dog on the block, and then there was Bushmaster. They were probably the second biggest dog for a while. Bushmaster guns were kind of a big deal back in the day. And then there was a lawsuit because we live in a very litigious society. Not because their guns blew up in your face or anything, but just it's sad what happened to Bushmaster. But that's the one we're going to start with. And that kind of ties in with a lot of the Remington guns. Because if you don't know, a lot of the guns from Remington was caught up in that whole debacle. And not to get, all the legalese out and all that stuff. But that hurt Remington pretty bad too. Remington has come back with a few of their core models, like the 870 and the 700. I can't recommend them just from my small sample size of the new ones, but they are coming back. Let's hope that they get better. But how about some Remington models that aren't around anymore? At least new from the factory. The Remington 760. Perhaps one of the best, most practical hunting rifles ever made. For practical, like spot and stalk and still hunting. The Remington 760. If you don't know, it's like the rifle version of a Remington 870 pump shotgun, except it's a rifle. It was available in full power rifle rounds, most commonly 30-06, but it was available in some other cartridges. Down to 223, they had the 7615, which was like a quasi AR, had a baby with a Remington 870. That was a thing. They had the 760p for police. They had a lot of classic hunting models of the 760. That was a beautiful, marvelous gun, especially for a manual transmission gun. As much as people drool over the lever action for a manual transmission gun, this gun was full power, 30-06, detachable box magazine, pump, which is faster. Good optics mounting ability, good iron sights. It was a phenomenal gun. Sadly, it is no more. Its cousin, the semi-automatic version, the 742. Very similar to, if that's the rifle version of an 870, the 742 would be the rifle version of the 1100 or the 1187. Their semi-auto version. And if you like the ergonomics of an 870, you probably really would have liked these. Another one. The Remington Versamax, and this is a phenomenal shotgun. If you're familiar with the Benelli M4, the Benelli M4 is a phenomenal shotgun. However, it's a combat shotgun. It's a door-kicking shotgun. It is not a good crossover shotgun. If you want that, get the Benelli M2. without getting too far off topic, it's a strict combat shotgun. If you don't know, it has a dual operating system. It's one of the reasons it's so crazy, rugged, and reliable. It has 2 gas pistons on the bottom. So you have two dual gas piston systems on the bottom, and you have the inertia system. It's crazy reliable, crazy redundant, and the M4 kind of crazy heavy and unwieldy as a field gun. The Remington Versamax was that operating system in a field gun. Pretty cool. It was a cool gun. I think if Remington hadn't gone in such a debacle, it may be one of the top shotguns on the market. However, it isn't. So the Remington Versamax, available in 2014, no longer available. A really cool shotgun if you find one. And if you like retro kind of, I don't even know what you would call it, utilitarian chic. If you see this gun, the Remington 887, it's like the budget plastic coated, it's kind of like a classic 870 and a Glock had a baby. It's like an pump action shotgun covered in plastic. Literally, it's like the metal pieces were coated in a polymer shell. Kind of ugly, very utilitarian if you wanted a great truck shotgun, a great canoeing shotgun, something like that. That 887, rugged and robust. I saw one recently and it had held up, like that polymer and the steel, it had held up rather well. So, looks like it was a good idea if you want a really ugly utilitarian shotgun. And don't worry, it's not all about Remington, but Remington made the R15 way back in the day. Basically an AR-10 type platform. You might think, okay, there's tons of those on the market, and there are. That's not really the point of today's episode, but the R15 came in really cool calibers, like 7mm 08 and 243. You could get an off-the-shelf AR-10 in 243. Why would you want to do that? Because 243 is awesome. And a semi-automatic 243 with a box magazine fed AR-10 type modularity, that's legit. That was a cool gun. And again, no longer with us. But that Remington R15, the 308, you might argue what's the point because there's a ton of 308s. Yes, but 7mm 08 and 243, not so much. A really cool gun that sadly fell by the wayside. How about Ruger? Ruger is known for some really cool guns. Ruger is really known for their 22s. They're known today for their Ruger American. But they were once kind of well regarded for their over and under shotguns. In 2014, 10 years ago, you could still get a Ruger Red Label. At least it was listed in the catalog that I had. The Ruger Red Label, beautiful, rock solid, rugged over and under shotgun, American made by Ruger. And one of the coolest things ever, they made, you know I'm a big fan of stainless, right? And Ruger does a lot of good stainless. They made a Ruger Red Label over and under shotgun in stainless steel. It's like you take the over and under awesome factor and then you double it because it's stainless steel. What an awesome gun. Ruger Red Label, stainless steel, super cool. Sadly, rest in peace, stainless steel, Ruger Red Label, and Ruger Red Label in general. Mossberg, still big and strong on the market, and I think it just had bad timing with this gun, because lever guns, they're so hot right now. But Mossberg had the 464. And the 464 was a pretty good lever action gun as far as I know. And as far as I know, it's no longer being made. They came out with it back when everybody was like, why would I want a lever action? And then all these influencers and pushers of guns and stuff are like, lever actions are so hot right now. And they are. But I think that gun just came out at the wrong time. The Mossberg 464. Maybe with this upswing in the lever action genre, it'll come back. That'd be pretty cool. A couple of things that aren't gun specific. You guys remember Key Mod? Yeah, that's gone. You guys remember when the tacticalest thing ever was quad rail, the cheese grater for your hands. Quad rail was a big standard thing 10 years ago, to show you how far we've come. There was a time when, a quad rail and an EOTech said, this guy's legit. The pinnacle of tactical back in 2014. Not so much today. M-Lock won that race. Gold star for Magpul. Here's one that'll make some of you really sad if you're into all kinds of guns, not just the tactical guns. H&R Handy Rifle. These things had like a cult following. People loved these things. They had the barrel exchange program. You could get a gun and you could get it in 1 caliber and send it in. You could get one in 22 Hornet, send it in, and get all kinds of calibers. They made calibers up to 35 Whelen. I think they made a 45-70. Single shot break open, poor man's Thompson Center contender. They were really cool guns. They made some matched pair guns. I remember they made a youth model. If memory serves correct, and I'm just going with memory, it was like a 22 long rifle, a 410, and a 243. Talk about a sweet, like apocalyptic, like store at your cabin loadout. You got a good deer round, you got a good small game round, and you got a good shotgun round. That was pretty cool. The H&R Handy Rifle, again, had a cult following. It was big for a long time. Other than the cost of manufacturing really went up or something, that might be it. Those were like kind of a staple back in the day. And in 2014, you could still get them. In 2024, not so much. Rest in peace, Little Handy Rifle. Another one, I don't know if this has to do with just the company or import laws, Baikal. Baikal made some really cool guns. They were from Russia. Really well-made shotguns. I think one of the major manufacturers, I want to say Remington, maybe somebody else, maybe it was Winchester, they imported Baikal shotguns. Now a bunch of stuff's made in Turkey. I'd much rather get it from Russia than Turkey. You might not agree with Russia's politics, but at least they're not Muslims who want to kill Christians and cut their heads off. So, Baikal. Russians are made, you can say what you want about commie politics. I don't agree with commie politics, but commies make a fine gun. The AK-47, and I know they're not communists anymore, but Russia makes some good small arms. I don't think anybody that even is Russophobic, I probably just made that word up, but even if you're Russophobic, you probably would concede that Russia makes some awesome small arms. AK-47, SKS, Dragunov, RPG, right? Those are legit. They also made some really good shotguns, and they made some really cool combo guns and some really cool calibers. Combo gun meaning like a rifle over a shotgun. And today, the only real big one on the market for that is the 22 long rifle or 22 Magnum over a 410 by Savage. That's a cool gun. But if you wanted something like a 223 over a 20 gauge or something like that, a 30-06 over a 12 gauge or something, right? Baikal, I don't know if they made those exact combos, but Baikal made some really cool, rugged guns back in the day. And they were listed in that magazine in 2014. You find one today, you're probably going to have to find a used one. And I don't know if they're very coveted or not, but they're a cool gun. How about Marlin? Marlin has just made a comeback, right? Marlin also sadly was caught up in that whole Remington debacle. Big Green. Oh, sad times. However, Marlin has come back under Ruger, and they're making some guns again. But these, as of the time of this recording, I'm not aware that they make them anymore. The Marlin 336 they came back out with, and it's a phenomenal gun, one of their iconic lever-action guns. They make it in 30-30. For a long time, and back in 2014 it was still listed in 35 Remington. And if you are from a lot of places in the country, you're like, 35 Remington, who cares? If you're from a small area in like the northeastern United States, you're like, 35 Remington, that is the deer and black bear serial killer of this area. Who knows how many deer and black bear have been slain with the 35 Remington? I went on my first bear hunt ever when I was a child with a 35 Remington. The 35 Remington is a great cartridge. Marlin 336 and 35 Remington was a beautiful, delicious hunting combo. Despite what marketers might have you believe today, you don't need a free float barrel, and you don't need, a rangefinder, and you don't need a super uber high BC bullet. And you don't need to ring steel at 1,000 yards to kill a deer or a black bear or an elk or anything else for that matter. You need to learn how to shut up, be patient, be quiet, walk quietly in the woods, and read the wind. That'll do you a lot more than that other fancy stuff. Stop trying to solve a software problem with hardware. Stop trying to spend your money out of a problem. Spend your way out of a problem with money. It's a better way to articulate that. Just get in the field and learn how to do it. And you can get it done with an old Marlin 336 and 35 Remington. And again, that was listed in 2014. And alas, the 35 Remington and the 336, at least for now, used only. Another really cool one from Marlin, the baby version, completely different design, but Marlin lever action gun, the 39A. They made the 39A, they made it in a takedown. The 39A is one of the coolest little 22s. Just period. Like, it's one of the coolest, most fun, just neat little 22s, period. And there's a lot. The Marlin 39A was a really cool gun. Now, again, no longer listed, but those things are really cool, especially the takedown. Really cool gun. Light, handy takedown. You might argue a very good survival 22. Here's another one, sadly, and this is one of my favorite spot and stock and mountain rifles. Listed in the catalog in 2014. It's no longer listed. It's no longer being made. And that's the Kimber Adirondack. And the Kimber makes a lot of mountain rifles. Why the Adirondack? Why is that special? Because it weighs 4.1 pounds. 4.1 pounds for that catalog, I believe. Or per the specs that I remember. 4.1 pounds. To give you an idea, the Scout rifle, which is touted as like a lightweight, handy bolt-action rifle, and it is. The weight range for that, people will argue, but it's either 6.6 pounds or 7.7 pounds. Again, the Kimber Adirondack weighs 4.1 pounds. I'm blessed to own one. I'm blessed to put my hand right now on the case that it's in. It's a deliciously wonderful mountain rifle. When you're walking up and down, ridges, rough terrain, covering a lot of ground, it is an awesome, awesome gun, the Kimber Adirondack. They do make them out in the scent, but the Adirondack, no, and it's sad. I'm just going to pause a moment of silence, shed a tear if you want to. Fare thee well, Kimber Adirondack. Oh, and the next one, also near and dear to me. STI. They're still around as Staccato. They make a few models. Back when it was STI, they made so many models. STI, now Staccato, is still a good company. However, I think they only make one full-size gun. They've gone to this carry thing instead of really good, great, some of the best shooting guns, and they still are some of the best shooting guns, but full-size guns. I think the XL, and they call it the extra large, that's a regular full-size gun. A 5-inch barrel 1911 is regular. As far as I know, they only make one full-size model with a 5-inch barrel. They make a bunch of compacts. Back in the day when it was STI, they made really, really good full-size 1911s. They made the Marauder, which is perhaps the most well-balanced and beautiful of their line. The Marauder. They also made the Executive. If you want just an elegant, beautiful, really good shooting full-size, they made the Executive. They made the Eagle, which was kind of their base model, which was still superb. And back in the day, they were $1,500. Try getting a Staccato for $1,500 now. And they were $1,500-ish bucks, I think, when I got my last one. And they, that's inflation is what it is. Probably shed a tear for that too. But let's talk about the STI Perfect 10. The STI Perfect 10 is a double stack, full size 1911 in 45 ACP that actually worked. Not like one of these hashtag #MeToo made in Turkey, made somewhere overseas that maybe it runs on a good day when it's 72 degrees and sunny and you're using ball ammunition. I mean, this thing was a beast. It was fantastic. The STI Perfect 10. Talk about firepower. Firepower, elegance, fit and finish. The STI Perfect 10. A lot of those STI models, Staccato's still around, still makes good guns. But a lot of those models, they're gone. SIG. SIG has grown a lot on the market. They make a lot of really cool guns. Heck, they won the military contract for the next service pistol and the next service rifle. They're a giant company now. They make a lot of models. But there are some models that they don't make. How about, do you guys remember, put on your thinking caps, the SIG P250? You have probably more to owe to the SIG 250 than you might realize, because a lot of what you take for granted in the 320 actually came from the P250. Same grip modules, that whole kind of chassis idea, that fire control unit idea, that was all in the 250, which was kind of a flop. It was a double action only. Think of a 320 that's double action only. Hammer fire, double action only. I don't like double action only. I wish they'd come back with that gun in a single action only version. That would be awesome. But the 250, you owe a lot of the lineage, I think, of the 320 and the M17, M18 for that matter, to the P250. A lot of those really cool ideas. The grip modules, the modularity, the fire control unit idea. Not that that was the first gun to have that, but you see a direct correlation between those two guns. And the P250 is no longer with us. The P290, this was an awesome, awesome carry gun. It was also double action only, which I think kind of hurt it, but a tiny, rugged, robust, little, think of it as like a slim-sized, a little bit slimmer Glock 26, but all metal on metal, really good sights, really reliable, had a giant bull barrel like a bull barrel 1911. It was a cool little gun. It wasn't double action only, which for a small carry gun like that, you might argue that's okay. And I would argue that's okay too. I'd rather have it on an uber small carry gun than a full-size fighting handgun. But the 290, no longer here. And the 239. The 239, no longer with us. If you think of like the 226 and 229 as a double stack, one of the best combat handguns ever made, and I would say it is. One of my go-to carry guns is a SIG 226 single action only. Well, they made the 239, which was like a single-stacked, compact, similar operating system to that gun. Those are really good carry guns. You may find one on the used market, but they're no longer listed by SIG. And it was a really good gun, a really good carry gun. That was a double single action. And the little SIG that couldn't. I'm kind of glad this one's gone. The SIG Mosquito. I remember when these were a big thing. They were cool looking. They kind of looked like a baby shrunk down 226. They were not reliable like a 226. They were not even reliable by 22 handgun standards. I remember a little pamphlet that came with this, with the SIG Mosquito, that said use CCI Minimags. Which CCI Minimags is good ammo, but if that's the only ammunition recommended for that gun, that kind of negates a whole big reason you get that most people get a 22 handgun, is for cheap practice. So the SIG Mosquito, they were cool looking. They never really worked that well. I'm kind of glad that one's dead. That new SIG P322 is actually a really, really good gun, and I think much better than the SIG Mosquito ever was. They're beautiful guns, and if you get one you just want to shoot CCI Minimags with it, that's fine. But kind of rest in peace for that one. And a company that's no longer with us that made some really good 1911s. Para Ordnance. First Canadian, then American. They made some really good 1911s. Back in the day, there were like one of only two that you would see in competition for double stack 1911s. You'd see the STIs and you'd see the Para Ordnance. Those were rugged, reliable. They would go a long way. They would stand up to an abusive amount of rounds. The Para Ordnance, right? One of my old-time favorite shooters, Todd Jarrett, was sponsored by Para Ordnance. Para Ordnance was a great company. Got bought up by Remington, and, well, you probably know how that went. But Para Ordnance made some really cool guns. They didn't just make the double stacks. They also made really good just 1911s. So, if you see one of those for a good deal, just know that if it was a Canadian-made one or an early American pre-Remington bought Para, it's probably a really good 1911. So, yeah, Para Ordnance. Hasta la vista, Para. Alright, with that, guys, I don't want to end on a bummer note. Here's the thing. These guns are no longer with us being made new right now. But guess what? There's a lot of really cool new guns that are. We're kind of in the golden age. There are way more really good carry guns now than there were in 2014. There are some really cool rifles now that weren't available in 2014. There's some really cool shotguns available that weren't available in 2014. All in all, I think we're doing pretty good. Not crazy happy about the inflation, but as far as guns available, right? For those of you old enough, and this wasn't in 2014, but for those of you old enough to remember living through the last assault weapons ban, get it while it's hot. Get it while you can get it. Guns, ammo, now is a blessed time to be into guns and be an American. So, I want to end on a positive note. This is kind of a golden era. Who knows when the next assault weapons ban is going to be, or the next ammo shortage or whatever. At the time of this recording, to misquote Dumb and Dumber, right now the guns and ammo are instinctively flowing like the salmon of Capistrano. Might want to responsibly, if you have the money, get some really good stuff. There's some really good stuff on the market. With that, guys, your tactical tip of the day. Don't skimp on the blue Loctite. Don't use red Loctite unless you absolutely know what you're doing and you never, ever, ever want to get that thing off again. But don't skimp on the blue Loctite. And all the money you're going to spend on guns and ammo and stuff, if you're mounting something or putting a screw in, don't skimp on the Loctite. Don't skimp on 25 cents worth of Loctite. It's not worth it. Blue Loctite is your friend. Also on that note, make sure the screws and stuff are clean. You can clean them with rubbing alcohol. You can clean them with electronics cleaner. You clean them with hot soapy water as long as you let them dry. But if they're covered in oil and you put blue Loctite on them, probably not going to work so well. Dry, clean screws and threads, blue Loctite, that's your buddy. Anyway, that's your tactical tip of the day, your tactical verse of the day. Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. God created everything, but He made us special in His very own image, to have dominion. Remember that. God made you. He created you in His own image, and He loves you, and you're not a mistake. With that, thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.